So thank you everyone for coming to lethal client-side attacks using PowerShell. Some things about me. These are some details about me. I'm a hacker. I go by the handle Samrat Ashok. This is my Twitter account. If you like my talk or hate it, just give me a shout there. This is my blog. I'm creator of 2 toolkits. Check those out. I'm mostly interested in new ways to break into systems, offensive security methodologies, etc. And I've done a few talks in last years. So we would be talking about in a little detail client-side attacks, then a couple of slides to what is PowerShell, a couple of slides to why we use PowerShell. Then we'll have a look at some code which I have written to automate creating documents or things which help in client-side attacks, obviously with PowerShell. Then defense against these things, and we'll conclude. So here's a nice quote to make this look mystic. This is from a political theorist from India. 2000 years back, he said this. So obviously no Sun Tzu quote here. You know, India 1, China 0. Just kidding. So client-side attacks. Why do we need client-side attacks? Our servers are being locked down. They are being monitored. There are IPS, IDS stuff, patching, monitoring, SIEM, etc., on the server side. So, though there are a lot of vulnerabilities, for example, we saw shell shock, heartbleed, and many more with nice logo and catchy names, which makes it easier to see the vulnerabilities, but to exploit them is really like shouting out, "Hey, I'm here, catch me! I'm trying to get into your systems." Yes, there are helpful corporates which allow us to get into them from server side without getting noticed, but everyone is not so nice. And in fact, with my clients, if you see the second point, with my clients, I noticed a really fast pace to apply patches or to apply workarounds for at least for headline vulnerabilities. So client-side attacks are really not. So server-side attacks are really not as fruitful as they used to be, maybe 3 or 4 years back, or even couple of years back. So client side is a little less priority, even to those environments or corporates who think themselves as secure, or those who think that they follow security best practices. Still, they come to the second priority or to a lesser priority when it comes to patches, monitoring, everything else. And the parameterized network, that is, the network is divided into different parameters. We need to, that old castle defense sort of mentality, that there is a castle door, we must protect it at all costs. When it gets breached, let's move to the previous level. That thing is still persistent in corporate defenses, that the perimeter must be secured. No one actually cares as much about the clients or the backyard as they do for the castle front door. For example, I still found older versions, non-sandboxed, Adobe 6, 7 on servers, in different clients. So that pretty much explains the seriousness. And though there are chances, I'm not saying that you will not be caught or there is no monitoring, etc., but there are less chances. If you compare it to, let's compare it with, let's say, the shell shock vulnerability. If you try to exploit shell shock in any environment, there would be lots of signatures, your IP would be tracked, you may be blocked, etc. You may be arrested if you're not a penetration tester and doing some nasty stuff without authorization. In client-side attacks, it's not really that easy to track you. Uh, as I said, no one actually really cared for the client-side attacks. And another interesting thing which I have come forward during my social engineering campaigns is, as the users use some credentials or access some information or use a software daily as the daily job, they tend to lose the importance attached to that data or the credentials or something. That is a daily job. That is a regular thing for them. They tend to lose the importance that if someone else gets access to it, how bad it could be. So they tend to lose that importance. So that also sometimes helps with the client-side attacks. Now, if you're using client-side attacks, it is still better not to use memory corruption bugs, for example, exploiting some vulnerability in MS Office or in Adobe Reader or something. Because again, the countermeasures installed on hosts, for example, some antivirus, some HIPS or something, it may flag you. It may flag your exploit, and if it is from a well-known tool like Metasploit or maybe even Canvas, then there are chances of getting flagged. So what should you do? You should be able to attack those things from by using the things which are already present on the machine. For example, as we'll see, MS Office with VBA, with PowerShell, that kind of stuff. That is, we need not really push any foreign stuff. Obviously, our code is foreign to the machine, but it is supported by something native on the machine. So that really helps. And this is exactly where PowerShell comes in picture. So what is PowerShell? In this link, I just copied this stuff from this link. So just quickly read this. Microsoft says that Windows PowerShell is a task-based command line shell and scripting language. It is bold for a reason. Designed specifically for system administration, built on the .NET framework, Windows PowerShell helps IT professional and power users to control and automate the administration of Windows operating system and applications that are Windows. So these two things, it's a command line shell and scripting language and control and automate. So that is enough to generate interest to use these things for let's say penetration testing or other evil stuff. So why PowerShell? As we saw, it's a shell and scripting language which is already present on the most general targets and also the most fruitful targets in a penetration test. I mean, most of the times it is a Windows machine which acts as the foothold or the first step in gaining access to other machines in a network. It is a powerful method to reside in the systems, poke other machines in the network or the domain, interact with them, pull interesting stuff from them. It provides easy access to .NET classes, WMI, Windows API, Windows shares, to Active Directory, SharePoint servers, SQL servers, almost everything you will find in a domain environment. PowerShell provides a really easy access to those things. Obviously, you need privileges, you need authentication to those machines, but that is it. I mean, that's just really not something which we cannot get. It's really easy to move on to other things after we get on a Windows machine with PowerShell. And post Vista, Windows PowerShell is present on each and every machine by default. In fact, from Windows Server 2012 onwards, even PowerShell remoting is enabled by default on the servers. That means PowerShell remoting allows you to actually connect to machine like let's say Netcat or anything you use. I mean, it allows you to take a shell, take a living interactive shell on the remote machine without anything special, but the privileges. Okay, PowerShell also makes you less dependent on MS. How many of you are penetration testers here? Must have heard about Metasploit. So a little less dependence on Metasploit, and even lesser on, let's say, Python 2exe, Perl 2exe, Ruby 2exe, whatever 2exe. That is, you need not convert your Unix scripting scripts, etc., to something which works on Windows machines. This could be used for it, and it's quite powerful. Okay. So we'll see that we can do some stuff on machines using PowerShell. But what is it which PowerShell actually provides? What is the cream? What is the meat in this? It is this. It provides for a really impressive post-exploitation. That is, for example, if you're able to push one single document inside a client's environment, you can do really some nasty stuff. Okay, so yeah, let's begin. Outward. So just for a quick introduction, most of the things, also the built-in commands in PowerShell, they are named in the format verb-noun. So that's the way I have named these things. So use outward to generate armed, weaponized, infected, nuclear arsenal Word documents. So it contains an auto-executable macro. As soon as the victim or the target opens that document, that macro gets executed, it calls PowerShell, and we can do the stuff. It is not detected, at least when I wrote it and tested on some with some antivirus. It was not being detected. And even if it gets detected, we can always change few things. Okay, so let's quickly have a demonstration. Let's load outward. So is it visible till the back? Or shall I increase the font size? A bit. No. I think that's the maximum. That's the maximum, I think. So I just loaded outward, and quickly, if someone is someone who uses PowerShell will know, I can just list the help. This is the script in memory. I can just list the help. It's really good help system with PowerShell. And for example, let's execute something really fastly. So before we execute anything, just have a look at the source. What is actually happening behind the scene. That would help us in selecting the payload. As you can see, everything else is just, so this is the soul of the thing. This is the VBA code. We are doing some stuff using WMI to start a process with our payload. And again, those who are really new to PowerShell, this thing, execution policy, just don't have a look at it. That's a deception. I mean, you can easily bypass it. So let's quickly run a really small trivial attack. Not even attack, just a POC. Let's say we want to pull a PowerShell script from a web server and execute it in memory. It won't touch disk. It would be executed in memory. So I have this little favorite web server running here. And something which speaks out on the target that yes, we got you, etc. So I'll just pass the payload URL to it. So it says it's saved to the file temporary directory of the current user with the name salary details. Okay, so let's quickly jump to it. Here it is. And now, if I run this, notice that something is being downloaded and, oh, sorry, anyone here heard anything? Okay, so again, we got that execution thing. Now let's do something which is more than just speaking on the target. Maybe we didn't hear the sound because of this thingy. Okay, so let's move on to something else. Let's just for demonstration, let's say here no exit. So we should see the window here now. In fact, let's just use this thing. Oh, it's already open. Let me remove that one first. Okay, save now. Okay, again, so let's see if we have anything running here. Okay, again, no output, so you have to wait. We'll move, have a look at that thing later on. So let's see what is happening actually. We'll move on to the better demonstration once I explain this. So if we run this on let's say I ran this on my own machine. So if you see the source, these two things, they actually disable the macro security on the target. So I'm just interacting with the registry and disable the macro security on the target. That is why when I opened that Word file, there was nothing like macro, do you want to run the macro, etc. So if you run this script on the target using some vector, then the victim won't see any prompts. But if you generate the Word file, that is that salary details or something else, and send it to the victim, there would be the usual macro-enabled warning. That's what I just said. And we'll have a look at the payloads later on. Okay, the URL we are passing to the payload, it just gets passed to this thing. That is, we are downloading something and executing it, or you can also use local PowerShell commands or something like that. If you don't want this thing to interact with the internet, as we did here, this thing, we just executed get process. Nothing is downloaded. Okay, now this thing is just if you need to pass arguments to the script which is being executed on the target, you can just use this -, arguments. That is it. Okay, so what if you want to infect all the files? For example, you got access to a file server, and you want to infect or inject something into all the Word files or Excel files already present there, then use this Word file dir option with this. This would look into all the docx files in that directory. We'll create another file with the same name and same last write time with doc extension. That is a macro-enabled thing. And it would look something like this. So let's say we have these two docx files, another one in here. And with this thing, I just pass Word file dir c client. So now we have two new macro-enabled documents. These two are, as you can see, the pointer. Oh, sorry. As you can see, the write time for original file has been copied by the write time of the infected file. And because on my machine, the known file types are hidden, so to add a bit of deception, these are the new files with .docx included in the name. So effectively, this is newer word.docx.doc, but it looks like it is the docx file. So it's just a little trick to fool the user to click these infected ones. And if you want, you can also remove the original ones with the option of remove docx. If you use this remove docx thing, the original ones would be deleted, though that is not recommended. If you use recurse, everything inside the subdirectories, every docx file would have an infected copy with the same name and with the same last write time. Now, okay, that we have discussed. OutXL works exactly the same way. That is, but it is just for XLX and XLS files. That is it. I prefer it because people are generally tend to accept macros in Excel because of that huge data stuff in that things. Okay, this one, it generates some HTA, that is HTML application, and a VB script. You just need to host both of the things on a web server, send the link to the victim, and if he opens it, your thing would be executed. The flip side is the user gets the user gets warning 2 times. I mean, I think I have one hosted on one of my local web servers, this one. So if I try to run this, first it opens up like it's an executable. And even if I say open, I get another warning. And if I say allow, then it does some stuff. We'll see the demonstrations together to save time. So this is how it works. Again, the format is same. We just need to load out HTA and pass these stuff the same way we have been doing with outward or outXL. For example, payload URL. We can pass a PowerShell payload to it or a payload URL to it. For example, if we just say here PowerShell.exe -c get service. Let's say if I say this here, these 2 files would be generated, which need to be deployed on a web server. As soon as the user browses to this HTML application, that VBS gets executed on his machine, which calls PowerShell. This way, quite simple. Again, no detection up to now. So this is again quite simple, but not really under the radar. You know, the user gets a couple of warnings. You could also use this thing or any other client-side payload with PowerShell modules. You just need to push the module to the machine and pass arguments to it. Okay, we'll see the demonstrations together. A couple of things like getting metrometer session. That is the thing which everyone likes, plus some other really good stuff. Okay, out Java, I actually initially planned this thing to be able to run PowerShell commands from applets, but because of that signed applet thing, that becomes a bit complex, and I was unable to complete that code in time. So maybe in future this may support applets, but right now It generates 4 files. The usable one is an executable jar. So let's skip this. Jar files are not really that much useful. Okay, this one, I like this one. This creates a shortcut, that is a LNK file, on a machine on which you run the script, or you can zip the LNK file and send it to a victim. So this actually is a shortcut to PowerShell, and we just pass the arguments to the PowerShell thing using this. The interesting part is the installation path of PowerShell is same for every version for every machine. So that allows us to use this thing without any modification. You just need to zip it and send it to any client for some fun. One very interesting thing here is this. We can actually have a hotkey. If we execute the script on the victim, we may actually have a hotkey subscribed or signed to that shortcut. So every time the user presses that key, this thing would get executed. So I think this needs a demonstration, a quick one. Let me just modify the code a bit so that the window is visible on our machines. Okay, yeah, we'll use this one. It says no exit and no Windows style hidden, so should be visible. Let's see. Let's load this. And let's use the same example. Okay. Okay, so we see in the current directory there is a shortcut with the icon which we mentioned here. We wanted the icon of notepad.exe. We could always change it. Let's make it explorer.exe. This is also the default one, explorer.exe. So now it looks a bit different. And do we have power printer here? No. Let's copy power printer here. Let's open this thing. Is it downloaded? Oh, sorry, I forgot the arguments. No, I didn't. But let me try with something else. Let's try a Meterpreter. So I do have this one already generated using MSF payload. Just need to, oh, that's sad. So I'll use okay. Okay, and so I'll just use the multi-handler with, for the sake of demonstration, let's use a reverse TCP, otherwise we could use anyone. Double R. Let's set I'll host to so we have a listener there. And let's pull this Meterpreter PowerShell script and execute on our target. So we got a Meterpreter session quite easily. No flash up in the front of the user. No detection. I think I have my antivirus running. So it was quite easy and needs no special setup, no special tool knowledge, nothing. And the interesting thing here is because I ran this on the target machine, which is my own, if, so I'll close this thing. So this window is visible because we changed this here for demonstration. If I press, I think it was F3. The hotkey is F3. So if I press F3, we got a Metropolis session, but it got killed. Okay, let's try it again. If I press F3, let me try it again. Let's assign something else. Let's say F5. Now if I press F5, it works. So the user, so this acts as a really useful, cheap backdoor sort of thing that whenever uses, for example, F5 users use it frequently to refresh things. So as soon as the shortcut is not deleted or the machine is not rebooted, this thing will work. So quite useful to get multiple sessions or backdoor or user machine. Again, this is just for the sake of demonstration. We could always move it. That's quite useful. Now the last one is using the CHM files. I actually saw a tweet yesterday about this thing. And fortunately, it was so easy to use that I could write the stuff in a couple of hours and test it. It really works and works nicely. It needs, on your machine, that is from where you will, not on the target's machine, it needs Microsoft's HTML help workshop compiler to compile the CHM. Again, in this case, the user will see a window flash, or it may remain open, depends on the payload you use. So this is the way we use it. We just provide a PowerShell command or encoded script or a URL to it, and we have to provide the path of the HTML help workshop. And we could do really nice stuff. Those of you who use PowerShell in their jobs may know about this encoded command thing. Just read about it. It is really useful. It allows you to pass base64 encoded commands or scripts to the PowerShell.exe. It never touches this, bypasses execution policy, makes it a bit difficult to have a look at the thing that was executed. So you could use this thing. And it drops 5 files on your machine, that is the attacker's machine, and you just need to send CHM to the target. So if I say out CHM, okay, I need to see the examples. Let's try another meterpreter maybe. Again, the syntax of using all of these is deliberately same. You either need to pass a payload or a payload URL or encoded command. Encoded command will not work with the MS Office things because I think there is some limit to the length of the process you can create using WMI. So I've not really looked into that depth, but encoded command generally led to a failure in those cases. Let's use this one, this thing. So it compiled a doc.chm in the DeepSec directory. In fact, a lot of files. But we need to just send this to a user. We have the listener running AS. So if I run this now, just says this. If you want, you can, using this HHC and HHK, you could really make it look better with a table of contents, with real text or help inside. Sorry, typo. So it's not a capital S here. Let me close this. So now if I run it, you should see a interpreter. No. Sorry, another typo. It's underscore. Let me copy the thing so that at least we don't waste time in typos. Okay, so it compiles the thing. And we got a metadata session. Again, quite silent and quite easy to use. Just need to send CHM. In fact, this was very intriguing for me. I mean, I used to think that CHM attacks or attacks based on CHM are something from 90s or 2000s. So let's enjoy this as long as it is available. And the original one, the name of the guy misses me, who tweeted about it. So he tested it on Windows 8 too. So I think this works on the latest ones too. So this is how we get easy Meterpreter sessions using these things. Does anyone really want to see encoded command thing? Do you think that we are talking too much to the internet? Do you believe if I say encoded command will also work? Or do you need a demonstration? Okay, no one believes me, so let's quickly do it. Let's first try with this one, an encoded command I already have. This is the encode. Let me create new ones because no one believes me. People may think that I've set it up, so there's no need of using CD. Let me load this small utility from my tool, which is called invoke encode. So I'll encode the payload, and I'll output a command. It says return to encoded command. So this is the encoded PowerShell Meterpreter. And if it doesn't crashes this thing, let's use this with out shortcut, let's say. Okay. So I have to see the help because there's a slight difference in some of the payloads. How do you pass the, okay, so for example, here we need to pass the whole argument. So I'll just say out shortcut -e, that is encoded command, and this thing. So now this thing gives out an error. So let me check. Okay. Okay, we have much less time left. Let's try out this with other thing. Otherwise, we have to assume that it works because it does. Gypsy path. It is. It is this. Let's just leave it for now. We are out of time, so I promise this works. Okay, so we could really do some more stuff out of this, other than this Meterpreter thing. For example, just catch me, I'm here for the whole day if you want to see these things. We could do some really great stuff. For example, this payload calls this function from Powershell, which is a tool written by me. So it opens up a command prompt in front of the user, asks for valid credentials. If valid credentials are not entered, this doesn't go away until the user enters valid credentials for a local user or a domain user. This thing won't go away. As soon as he enters it, there's a post request sent to this web server, which logs the encoded username and password, and you can always decode these. This thing, obviously, I'm not going to demonstrate because someone could screw my machine. You can see my attendees of my training, they know what this is. This is a backdoor which looks for wireless networks available, and it looks for a specially crafted Wi-Fi name. As soon as the name is encountered, it reads out commands out of that name and execute this on the target. So you could use even this thing with, for example, just quickly, how much time do I have? 3 minutes. For example, let me explain this theoretically. If the name of the WLAN is, let's say, this thing open CDIR. So the target machine would look for the Wi-Fi which starts with this open. CDIR, C means the command, and the next thing DIR it would execute. So in place of DIR, you can have encoded commands, anything you want. You could use your mobile to run a hotspot to try this thing. Just catch me later on if you want. Okay, use this for address testing. Use this to port scan other machines. All of these things do not require any special privileges on the target. Use this to port scan other machines. You can just sweep the whole network if you want. In fact, you can use a client-side attack inside another client-side attack. For example, from let's say from out shortcut, we pull out word, and in fact, everything recursively inside the C directory, every damn docx file would have a clone with that auto-executable macro. Again, no special privileges are required. All the files which could be accessed by the current privileges would be infected. Also, we could force browse to some URL if we want. On Windows 8, without any special privileges, we could dump credentials in plain from the Windows vault. Again, I think that needs admin privileges. We could check if the current user has privileges to other machines on the network, and much more. So bearing this Windows 8 thing, we do not need any special privileges on the user for these things. Okay, the defense is obviously user awareness. If people in your company are still opening the documents, still clicking on links sent by strangers, I mean, that's the basic thing, that's security 101. But they all do. I mean, the famous saying, there is no patch to human stupidity, there really is no patch. Removal of VBA completely, nothing, nada, nothing should execute from MS Office. That may help in these things, but that's obviously not possible. You know, the bane of Microsoft's existence, backward compatibility. Active monitoring of user machines. I mean, that's humanly not possible to effectively monitor all the client machines in a large environment, but that may also help. Because if you want to see how PowerShell attacks work, just have a look at a paper in DEFCON 22 this year, investigating PowerShell attacks. That's really nice thing. Okay, as we saw and as we assumed a bit, because some demonstrations were not successful, that usage of PowerShell makes these things much more lethal and much more powerful. We are not limited to a Meterpreter session. If we want, we can quickly move on to different things, different machines, do much more stuff. So again, these attacks would continue as long as the users trust the things they should not. These are the recommended PowerShell tools. Copy these from the slides. First one is mine. All of them are really good. And thanks to DeepSec for accepting me. Macro code is from this guy's GitHub. OutCHM is from this tweet. And that is it. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, do we have any questions? Yeah. Number one.
So wouldn't perhaps a better defense be to remove access to PowerShell from users who don't need it?
Yes, but that's that's cumbersome. You need to break some things, but yes, that's really helpful. Or there's no need to remove it, just lock it down. I think at least in latest versions, you could limit a user to execute just a couple of commandlets or commands. So that may help. But again, VBA is already, you can use the VB script in that case.
Yeah, I just have a question about antivirus. Do they really check PowerShell commands, or they just ignore it totally?
I think in case of out shortcut, they may, because I picked it up from Trend Micro's website. There was something in wild, a malware. But you can always encode things. You could call PowerShell without using that PowerShell.exe thing. So it may be or may not be useful. I mean, it depends on the implementation.
Okay, further questions? Okay, so thank you for your talk.